As I listened to the various groups read their tribute to my mom, I felt nothing. These people abandoned us when we needed them most. They never lifted a finger to help us. And now in the wake of her passing, they are all pretending they care, giving speeches about how she was an amazing woman. My name is Dave, and today we are laying my mother's remains to rest. She died of heart failure. She suffered to take care of us after our father's disappearance. He traveled overseas for greener pastures, and after a few weeks, all communication ceased. My mother tried to find out what happened to him, but he just disappeared on us. While everyone believed he had abandoned us, my mom believed something must have happened to him, claiming she knew the man she married. Hello, welcome to Folktales at Dawn, a storytelling channel where we bring you timely stories and tales with visual appealing 3D realistic arts for your entertainment. We drop 3 amazing stories 3 times in a week, and you don't want to miss any of our beautiful episodes. Do well to subscribe and hit the notification icon so that you will be the first to be notified when we drop amazing stories. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. In the absence of our father, life became very difficult for us, because Mom's job wasn't paying much. But she continued to put in her best effort and even had a side hustle to support the family. Gradually, her health started failing, making her too weak to work, and she refused to go to the hospital because she couldn't afford to pay. During a particularly challenging period, one of my aunties had to step in to take my mom to the hospital. I knew she didn't have much, so I realized she must have stretched herself to accommodate the expense. At the hospital, it was revealed that my mom's heart was weak and she needed medication. Fortunately, my aunt covered the cost of the initial medication. Adding to our already overflowing bills, things took a turn for the worse when my mom lost her job. Her constant absences had strained her relationship with her employers, impacting productivity and putting pressure on her colleagues. Unable to sustain her business due to constant weakness and days spent in bed, my mom relied on medication to alleviate her condition. However, the cost of the drugs was beyond our means. Consequently, my mom began reaching out to close family and friends for assistance. Allow me to digress a bit and talk about the time when our dad was present. While not wealthy, he provided a comfortable life for us. With a good job and the combined efforts of both parents, we were doing well. Our parents, known for their kindness and generosity, always extended a helping hand to both family and friends. I recall a time when they used our school fees to assist a friend facing a medical emergency. The friend's wife needed an urgent operation, and our parents decided to support them. They used our school fees, and our dad even took a loan from his office to contribute to the surgery. Fortunately, the surgery was successful and the woman survived. During that term, we were sent home from school because our fees were outstanding in the middle of the term. To address the situation, my mom had to take a loan from her own office, especially since exams were approaching and it was the 3rd term. Both my parents took loans, which meant we had to go without some basic necessities at home until they could repay the loans. That was the type of parents we had. That same friend of Dad's, who had become successful even before Dad's departure, offered to help my mom, but with a disturbing condition: he wanted to sleep with her first. I was furious and wanted to confront him, but my mom stopped me. It's disheartening to think about how heartless some people can be. Despite my mom's vulnerable condition, he still sought to take advantage of her. Shockingly, he dared to express his long-standing desire for her and suggested that, given her husband's absence, this was his opportunity. He claimed that if she complied, he would offer his assistance. Some people truly have a depraved mind. Anyway, our auntie continued in her efforts to buy the drugs whenever possible. However, since my mom wasn't using the medication as regularly as she should, her health didn't show signs of improvement. All of these events unfolded within a year. We were already in debt to the landlord, who had been understanding enough to grant us some time. However, when a year and a half passed with no indication that he would receive his money soon, he suggested we find alternative accommodation. Though our aunt was willing to take us in, Her husband adamantly refused, even though our father had helped them with their rent multiple times. Faced with mounting pressure from the landlord, my mom decided to seek help from one of her well-to-do uncles, a successful politician. Despite being cousins, he was much older than her. Due to her weakened state, my mom asked my elder sister, Petra, to visit him on her behalf. At 17, Petra had completed her schooling, but due to financial constraints and the need to care for our mom, she couldn't attend university. Mom insisted that I complete my secondary education, especially with external exams approaching. For weeks, Petra tried to meet with Mom's uncle, with no luck. One day, she returned home, having finally met him. However, I sensed something was amiss, though I couldn't quite pinpoint it. He gave us some money, and we were able to pay for 2 years' rent and my exam fees. With the additional funds, we could also purchase enough medication for my mom, and she began to show signs of improvement. There were days when she could leave her bed and move around. A few weeks after we received the money from our uncle, I heard someone groaning in the night. The sound came from Petra's room. I rushed there and found her wriggling on the floor, clutching her abdomen. "Petra, what's wrong with you?" I asked, concerned. She couldn't articulate a response, just gripping her abdomen in pain. "Please, tell me what I should do," I urged. She managed to utter "auntie," and I deduced that she wanted me to call our auntie. Quickly, I made the call, though it took a while for her to answer. When I explained the situation, she instructed me to take Petra to the nearest hospital, emphasizing that she was too far away and it was nighttime. "Auntie, it's the middle of the night. How will we get there?" I questioned. "You have to find a way, or do you want your sister to die?" She responded sternly. That gave me a sudden burst of energy. I swiftly got dressed and checked on my mom, who was in a deep sleep due to her medication. Making sure my sister was decent, I carried her on my back, locked the door, and began walking to the hospital. Thank goodness I acted, otherwise, my sister would have died. Early the next morning, my aunt arrived at the hospital, and that's when the doctors informed us about the situation. My sister had attempted to terminate the pregnancy, but fortunately, she hadn't lost much blood. The hospital performed an evacuation procedure, and she survived. When asked about the person responsible for her pregnancy, we were shocked to find out she was raped by her mom's uncle before giving her the money. She recounted her ordeal, with tears falling uncontrollably from her eyes. When I finally met him, he claimed he worked hard for his money and was willing to give it to me, but I had to give him something in return myself. I thanked him and declined the money. However, as I tried to leave, his security details stopped me. There were 2 of them. Before I knew it, they lifted me and took me to another room. In that room, there was a bed. They tied me to the bed, and thereafter he came in and forced himself on me. "Why didn't you say something?" My aunt was crying. I was crying as well. I didn't want to cause any more trouble, and I was so ashamed to talk about it. When I found out I was pregnant, I went to a pharmacist in another part of town and bought the drugs. I was infuriated, and I wanted to confront Mom's uncle, but my aunt advised against it, stating that it wasn't necessary. She explained that the man was wealthy and had the power to make any of us disappear. We decided to keep it a secret from our mom out of fear of how it might affect her. As the time for my final exams approached, it was challenging for me to concentrate, but I pushed myself hard, knowing the sacrifices my sister had made to obtain the money. After the exams, my sister suggested that I stay at home while she looked for a job. A few weeks later, she secured a job as a waitress in a restaurant. The pay wasn't much, but it was something, and because she worked in a restaurant, we always had leftover food from customers. The unexpected event that eventually led to my mom's demise unfolded when all attempts to locate our dad had proven futile. One evening, as my sister returned from work, we gathered for dinner leftover food she brought from her workplace. During the meal, our mom received a call on her phone, and it was from an international number. My sister decided to put it on speaker, revealing that it was one of Dad's friends who Mom had contacted to help find him. "Sarah, that's my mother's name. I'm afraid I have some bad news. Ben," referring to my father, was framed for drug trafficking. The friend who housed him was involved in drugs, and when they raided the house, they took everyone and locked them up. He has been in prison since then. In prison? Oh, my God. But how is he doing, and what jail time did he get? My mom inquired. Received a call from someone who was in prison with him and just got released, he explained. There was a pause, and I sensed the devastating news that followed. He said there was a fight in the prison, like a gang fight, and Ben was caught in the middle. I had to travel there to confirm my findings, and it was true. What was true? Ben is dead. Ha. That was all my mom said before collapsing. My sister and I rushed her to the hospital, and the doctors pronounced her dead. You can imagine the conflicting emotions I experienced as I witnessed all these people gathered here today, speaking as if they genuinely care. The grand burial ceremony for my mom, funded by various groups including her secondary school alumni, university alumni, and a women's group she belonged to, has been a show of who has more money. Yet, these very people couldn't extend their help when my mom needed it the most. Even her secondary school alumni, while making an effort, only contributed 50,000 naira at some point. Now, as my sister and I sit in the church during the burial, the reality of being orphaned sinks in. I thought about what the future holds for us, given that both our parents are gone. We'll have to leave our current accommodation, and my dreams of attending the university and face reality. This implies I'll need to find a job and join the ranks of many Nigerians striving to survive. Life, at times, unfolds as a mystery. Perhaps if Dad had remained in Nigeria, maybe both he and Mom would still be alive today. Or maybe if he had relocated to another city and connected with a different friend. But it's too late for regrets now. As I rise and follow the coffin being lifted to take Mom to her final resting place, I maintain a composed expression, choosing to ignore the insincere condolences and greetings from those around me. They are all hypocrites,